Greetings, everyone. You are tuned in to the Brain Software Podcast, episode 261, emanating from the hypnotic world epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I'm Fritz Thompson. Today, Jeff Mandel and I debrief the world's finest hypnosis conference, HypnoThoughts Live 2024 edition. So hang in there because we just got back.
Disclaimer. In these troubled times of global division and general dersitiveness, there will always be the naysayers. You know the ones I mean. The people who think that we should never attend HypnoThoughts Live again. But is that feasible? And even more importantly,
can you really stop us?
Can you stop us at all?
Lucci! Ha ha!
All very well and good. But whatever happened to those wonderful old World War I stories we used to love hearing at bedtime? You know, the ones about trench foot, barbed wire, barrages of white phosphorus, and scurvy.
This is not Salem, Massachusetts, so join me in welcoming to the hypnotic ducking stool, the Matthew Hawkins of Regression to Cause.
Hurrah!
The Toronto Trance Machine, par excellence, and the Keith Richards of Hypnosis, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Christopher, we're going to rock this pecker. We need a lot to get
Do you
to.
like how I softened it? Mike Mandel.
Like and ease show. I thought that's where you were going.
Right. We're gonna have a good one here today. Let's just set the scene here. So we're going to talk about hypnosis, but also the networking, the community that is HypnoThoughts Live.
Right. We're also going to talk about 4 of the trainers I saw and what I really enjoyed about watching them.
Yeah. So we're not only going to give you some good insights that come from the field of hypnosis, but just general stuff that I think will be useful for a lot of people outside of the official field of hypnosis and hypnotherapy.
Brilliant.
Now, before we do that, we're going to go into our think tank words, and you have something about here of the reverse Dracula game, but let's just do the think tank words
here
first.
We go.
Okay, so again, reminder of what these are and why we're doing them.
The think tank words are typically drawn from Savo Bukacek's lateral thinking device, the think tank, which provides random words which are used for provocative operations to get our brains going in different directions. We use these 3 to attempt to work them into the show and also just to get our brains connected and do all the cool stuff we do because we're us.
Fun. All right.
And then we Dracularize at least one of them. So
all right, which we'll explain at some point. Okay, so
is from online because I didn't have a think tank with me. Profession. Second is computer. And third is consequences.
Ooh, okay. I like this. You know, I think our rhythm of disclosing all 3 at a time, at one time, is better.
It's
okay,
good. It's only
so
5 years to
profession, your job, something that you excel at.
Yes.
And I think that's useful. I mean, that's so obvious. But what can you think about? What would you like to excel at that you really enjoy? Because your job, if it's fun, isn't really something that feels like a job, is it?
Well, no. And in your case, I mean, you're obviously not just a professional hypnosis trainer and hypnotist.
Professional entrepreneur.
Professional. Yeah, I was going to say a self-confessed hypnotist.
Self-confessed hypnotist, right. I really think, when I think profession, I actually think, man, career, job versus profession. Job is something we do for money, right? We trade our time for money. Profession is something that we hopefully really freaking enjoy doing.
I would think so. I mean, why would anyone be stuck in a profession they hate?
And you can change it. If you don't like it, you can change it. Because these days, as you're all listening to podcasts, you can learn near anything. All right.
You can be anyone this time around.
That's
Timothy
right.
Leary, 1967.
All right, what do you got for computer?
Well, I've got one in front of me.
Yeah,
the
me
newest
too.
iPad is a supercomputer. It's actually faster than that.
I like my
it's the
MacBook
M4
Air.
chip or some damn thing. But our brains are computers. And when we are working in our professions, the more accurately we're able to process information, the better our brains run. And again, we're back to garbage in, garbage out. If we fill our brains, our personal computers with a bunch of crap, that's what we'll tend to exhibit in our lives.
That's a really good point. What you fill your brain with is going to
spill over.
It's going to infect your life in a good way or in a bad way. Infect will affect. That's what you infect your brain with will affect your life. I really like that. I think of my Tesla Model Y, which is at this very moment doing a software update. And hopefully when we go to lunch today, we're on an autopilot version 12.5. And I can't wait to re-listen to this a year from now and find out how poor 12.5 was back then.
Because there will be consequences.
Yeah.
What if you did not do that update?
Oh, good consequence. Well, consequences. So if I didn't do the update, if my car didn't continually get better due to the genius of Elon Musk and his team constantly pushing awesome software updates, and similarly, here we are on our iPads and Macs, which are always getting software updates. Yes. So computer and consequences. Yeah, if you don't constantly update your computer, your brain, the consequences. Your life just kind of still stays the same. And your profession,
right?
Yeah, and it will suck. So actually, there you go. I think we did a nice job.
Okay, that's not bad at all. Now we're not.
We could turn that into a whole podcast.
We're not going to do a Dracula, but I just want to let you know. I heard from Nigel, our friend from Britain.
Oh,
Nigel,
yes.
This is a shout out.
So nice to see him in Vegas.
He wrote to me. I just love that guy. He's so freaking funny. Such a great hypnotist. Such a nice guy. And he did we challenged him. I'd forgotten this.
Oh, the Dracula game.
We might have had a bit to drink that night.
Might have.
I challenged him to do a reverse Dracula.
Oh, okay. What did you give him?
You gave him the Monty Python comfy chair.
Oh, I gave him the word. That's right.
And he said comfy chair to comfy coffin to Dracula.
That's right.
I was like, yes, Nigel.
Buddy, I forgot about that until, I didn't obviously forget. It was in my computer. And the consequences of me not remembering until now is I got to laugh about it when you retold me something I theoretically already knew. Man. Yeah, that was so funny. Comfy chair to comfy coffin to Dracula. Oh my goodness. Okay.
I just love that guy. Okay, now he's a Brit, which of course immediately puts him in my good books. Wait
a second. That wasn't the reverse Dracula game though. That was the regular Dracula game.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I think he got from Dracula to comfy chair. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
Dracula to comfy coffin
to comfy chair. He did it back. Yeah.
Because why would Dracula line a coffin for centuries?
Nigel, it was freaking brilliant. We dub you Dracula Edwards.
Oh, yeah. Nigel Edwards. This is for you.
We dub you Dracula game king of Las Vegas.
Well, let's not go Las Vegas.
Of Las Vegas for 2024. Yeah. So somebody else can take the crown. All right.
Your nephew, Sam, he's probably the prince of the Dracula game.
Oh, yeah. Well, he just cheats. He goes, you say anything like, let's say Bell. Yeah. Bell in Transylvania.
To Dracula.
He's
using the Transylvania default, which doesn't have a lot of power.
Now, nobody's paying attention to us for Dracula.
Let's talk about HypnoThoughts
live.
Listen, this was a great conference. I remember at its peak before COVID, we were getting about 1,000 people.
About 1,000 people.
Certainly there were 1,000 when I did my keynote in 2019. Now, having said that.
There was no keynote this year.
No, there wasn't. And it's probably just as well because I think mine was the earth-shattering one that everything else is just in the
everyone else can just go.
If I may say so myself. Now, there have been great ones since. Let's just say it was really well attended. They still had about 700 people, but because of all these IT problems, Scott Sandlin told me there were 130 people could not make it who were booked. They had flights, they had hotels, everything, and they missed the conference.
We know so many people who couldn't come, and also on the way out, a lot of the people who were flying Delta, 2-day delays getting home. And anyway, horrible.
That just bites the
so
wand.
It was unfortunate, but we still had a really good time.
Yeah. Now, listen, Matt, what about my flight? My flight was 7.5 hours late going there. Yeah. I checked carefully. I arrived at Toronto Airport, Pearson, YYZ for Rush fans. Oh,
yeah.
I got there at 10 after 6 in the morning.
This has a point to it, by the way. This has a hypnosis point.
6 in the morning, and the wheels did not go up until 5 p.m. And the point of it is always fly business class.
Yeah.
Because I hung out the Maple Leaf Lounge, had 2 meals, had some whiskey, had some wonderful wine, just zoned out, listened to music.
Let me ask you this, though. So let's talk about this a little bit. And I know we have a lot of content.
We're forever if you like.
Yeah, I bet you could. Yeah. You got to the airport like 6-something in the morning. Your flight was supposed to be wheels up, or pushback, I should say, at 8:15. Yeah. You get there and you go, oh, delay. And it got longer and longer and longer.
I posted.
I remember you were texting me because I was in Colorado.
Because people were thinking, boy, you must have been pissed off. You must have been. And I said, no, it was the best exercise in state management I have ever done. I thought, I teach this freaking stuff.
Yeah.
Why not actually apply it for once?
So you had your AirPods with you, had your music, you had the ability to just sit by yourself and chill out. Did you get into you weren't able to get through security for many hours,
I had to wait. My bags could not go in for 3 hours prior to the flight.
Which would have been like 1 p.m. Or
no, because the original book time.
Oh, the original.
Yeah. So I got them in. I waited till 9 o'clock. I was able to put them in. I don't remember how it happened. So went up to the lounge and I said, look, my flight's delayed. Can I come in now? And they went, yeah. So let me in.
Perfect. So be nice. Rule of thumb, even though you're maybe violating a rule, they may have a rule about this, but if you present
Air
yourself.
Canada was wonderful.
If you present yourself as, hey, this really bad thing happened and would you mind helping me out? Most people will say, yeah, you know what? No problem.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Mm-hmm. But the state management was key. My wife was more stressed at home that my flight was delayed than I was there. And I just went, you know what? I can't go anywhere.
You can't do anything about
I
it.
might as well make the best of it. So
Yeah.
there's some people watching, listen to some music, just listen to On Every Street, Dire
Yeah.
Straits, which
Yeah,
is
that's
such
an
a great
amazing album.
Just had a blast. So
Yeah.
I managed to stay the whole time. I knew that
You
Michael
would have had hours practicing how to talk into the microphone instead.
Yeah,
of
that's
away
good.
from
That's
it.
right. One of those funnies that almost borders on being funny. Now, Michael C. Anthony and I were both scheduled to go to Cirque du Soleil at 7 p.m. I thought it was 8 p.m. It was
That
7.
wasn't gonna
We've
happen.
both seen it, but many years ago. We both wanted to see it again. I wanted to see Shania Twain for all the obvious reasons. But the thing is, we couldn't make it. I landed like 6:45 or something.
And
like
his
that.
flight was really delayed too, right?
His was delayed too. So we just hanging out with my other best friend, and state management at its finest. Now, I want to say about this, HypnoThoughts was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Chris here, Timothy September, our head of coaching, and I all presented to large crowds. We had good turnouts for our events and all got great response for them.
Yeah, we got bigger rooms this year. Thank you, Scott, for not putting us in the teeny room
was
just so it'd be
wonderful.
full. Yeah.
It was wonderful. And actually, I presented on being a kick-ass presenter.
Which we're recording. I'm actually going to say this right now because I think the page will still be up. I'll make sure it is. We'll leave it up for a while. MMH Gift. MMH, like Mike Mandel Hypnosis, gift, like a present.com, mmhgift.com. Just drop your email address in there and we'll send you the video recordings of mine and Timothy's class, Timothy's on his own class on conversations and conversational hypnosis, and your class on dynamic presentations.
Okay,
all of them we'll give them to you.
Can you sort them though, so the people who only want one of them don't have to get the others?
No. You're gonna get them all. That's the
just-
consequences. The consequences of putting your name and email address into that form is you're going to get a lot of good stuff.
Now, the thing about being a kick-ass presenter, and I gave some good points, I think, in 50 minutes. I didn't get to everything, but I tried to make it fun and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I did. The thing that was interesting was that for the first time, I ended with an installation for the entire group.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
People really loved that because I think you timed it perfectly. You knew exactly where you were.
I'm the king of timing.
Yeah.
Unlike my wife, the queen of not timing.
Well, you told a really good story in your class. I'm just
Which
going to give a little teaser here. So at HypnoThoughts Live, classes are either 1 hour or 2 hours. I don't think there are any 3 or 4.
No, I
in
don't
prior
think so.
years, they've
Yeah.
experimented, and I love it that Scott and Stephanie experiment with how they
They do
run
a
the
great
event
job.
every year. So now it's consistently, there are 1 hour slots and 2 hour slots. The 1 hour slot is actually 50 minutes because there's no back of the room selling or any nonsense.
Nope.
So you're not going to
No
be pitched
endless
to.
promotion of self. We didn't do any.
But you still need 10 minutes to change over the room, let the new speaker come in and set up and get ready, get the microphone on, all that stuff. So you time it perfectly. But one of the things you told is this awesome story. I love the story about how you ended up on stage for a keynote that you had to do in a corporate environment many years ago.
roll your
And it was
coat tail.
supposed to be for an hour. And how many minutes did you end up getting?
8
8
minutes.
So it was kind of cool because when you get to calculate your pay per minute, it's absurd.
I got paid $7,500 for 8 minutes work.
Yeah,
I mean,
which
that
is-
was the most I've ever been paid in my life. It was just fantastic.
So that's pretty funny. Anyway, the presentation you gave was kick ass.
Thanks, buddy. Because yours was a bit low.
Thank you.
I did. I'm sure. you've
Let's keep going here.
All right. So anyway, the point is, it was interesting too that I spoke on being a kick-ass presenter, because one of the things I wanted to do this HypnoThoughts was deliberately go and see some speakers, because Chris and I are thinking long-term of people we can do to fill monthly slots, but also the new ways we're moving into online.
We've got
trainings,
some
and we got some
plans.
plans.
Yeah.
And I saw a bunch of speakers, and I want to talk about 4 of them that I saw, and they all exhibited the kind of things I think were
Ooh.
just excellent. Let's start with the
And they're
first
all
one.
women, right?
All female.
And
Yeah.
that's the cool thing. Now, the first one was already featured in a newsletter that we sent out. If you're not already on our email list, that means you're missing out on
Everything.
The Sunday newsletter.
This is in my
That's
note.
mine, yeah.
Thank you.
The Sunday newsletter is called Open Mike.
Get it?
Ha-ha, you know.
Get it?
And so Mike writes an e-newsletter. Whatever, of course. We're not mailing it. We're not physically mailing it.
Put some
to you.
unleaded gasoline
Yeah.
in my car and turn on my color TV. Yeah.
Anyway, it's awesome. And you already featured the first presenter and then the other 3. I'll just let you start talking.
All right, buddy. Yeah. I went and saw Dr. Kathy Gruber right off the bat. Kathy has a legitimate doctorate. She's amazing. She's an aerialist, and her husband, Eric, who just is freaking
He's the
amazing.
fittest guy I
He's
know.
the fittest guy I know.
Yeah.
He's eclipsed you, but only because as Kathy pointed
Well, he
out,
is
Chris
quite a bit
still has
younger.
20 years on him, and you're the fittest guy for his age, I know.
Eric's freaking awesome.
He is. He's great. I got to know him a bit better this time. And Kathy, she's super fit and everything. But as a speaker, I gave her 5 stars.
She's amazing.
She was unbelievable. I've never seen her do a whole presentation before. She spoke on myth and archetype and how easily we could do these hypnotic journeys, the kind of thing that are in Journey of the Castle, Sidonia, and Rendlesham. And she was absolutely congruent, engaged the entire room, supremely self-confident without any of your sort of arrogance and that.
I'll tell you, I did not get a chance to see it because I had to prep for another one that I think Timothy and I were doing. So I missed Kathy's presentation, but I saw her present in the UK.
See, I did.
I believe it was 2017 UK Hypnosis Convention. And I loved it because she was so engaging. And she also did a fabulous job of tying in real life stories into her
Just
class.
incredible.
Yeah.
She just completely manifested the Mandel triangle. Congruence, confidence, and intention. Her body language was flawless. I mean, really was excellent. I don't want to be sycophantic here, but I think she's great. And here's what happened in her session. She's written a lot of books. So I refer you to Amazon. Check out Dr. Kathy Gruver, capital G-R-U-V like Victory, E-R. And she's got great stuff based on her keynote, or not her keynote, her presentation. Listen to this. She did this thing. Tranced us all out. And I thought, I'm going to do this. You know, I'm not going to.
Of course.
Oh, I'm Mike Metafive.
I'm the leading hypnosis trainer in the world. I don't go into
I'm
trance.
going to be vulnerable here. So I trust her. So the whole room, she had a good turnout. I go into this trance and she said, let your brain just touch you down somewhere. I can't remember the exact wording. And I expected it was going to be Sidonia or Rendlesham or something. Do you know where it was, Chris? It was Hikes Island on the Trent River.
Oh, your old cottage.
I spent time as a teenager with my mom and dad. And it was where I told the story of being there alone on the island and freaking out when I was 30.
Yeah.
So touchdown, she said, someone's going to appear and hand you something. And this is, I'm shortcutting it here, but this was a powerful effect on me. And this guy comes walking out of the woods and it's my father. He was the last person I expected it to be.
Wow.
And he looked younger. He looked really healthy. He didn't say a word. He handed me this thing wrapped in paper. It's like this big. And I'm going, okay, I know I'm in a trance, but this is very, very real. I unwrap it, and it's a metal disc about thus big with all symbols.
For audio people, he's demonstrating something about the size of a dinner
something
plate.
the size of a CD maybe,
Okay.
or DVD, but it's made of metal, about a quarter inch thick with all symbols and stuff. And I look at it, and on it, one word was printed, shell. And I said, Dad, why does it say shell? And he just smiled at me. And then I came out of trance.
Did you ever figure that out?
Oh, no, man. And I said, this happened so quickly, so amazingly. I put my hand, she said, who wants to share? And I said, I've got to share this with the group. I have no idea what this means. And it completely surprised me. And it's still resonating in the back of my mind. There was a really good vibe with it, too. And I don't know what it meant.
Well, that sounds like a...
encroaching mental...
Your brain, the computer, did something with a positive consequence.
Brilliant.
We just don't know what it is yet.
Hey, Cameron.
That is really cool. I'll tell you a very quick story similar to that. So I was in a mastermind with Timothy just before HypnoThoughts Live.
Yeah.
And we had a guest presenter, this guy named John, who leads an organization called Front Row Dads. And it was a fantastic
I've
thing.
heard that name.
Yeah. Anyway, John, shout out to you. You're freaking awesome. I told him afterwards, I said, I don't think you realize this, but you're a hypnotist. He guided everybody through a little bit of a guided imagery.
Okay.
And if I could teach him how to use a hypnotic voice, I think it would amplify the effects even more. But I went with it. Same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm the hypnotist in the room. I'm not going to know. Of course I'm going to participate. And he did this neat thing, which was an exercise in being grounded, but also being attached to the sky in some way so that you could kind of connect to the earth, but also the ideas and the
upper zone of handwriting
exactly.
and mind
exactly. Think of the handwriting.
Yeah.
Analogy.
The abstract. And
one of the things was like a little fishing line, keeping you grounded to the. I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Irrelevant.
I'm just wondering what the hook is hooked through.
Yeah, I don't know. I closed my eyes and went with this experience, and I'm in the room, wide awake a moment ago. Next thing you know, I'm having positive hallucination. Positive. It doesn't matter if they're positive or negative. I'm visualizing. I'm hallucinating
because you're
the
used
most
to hypnosis.
Vivid 3D scenes. I don't even remember what they are, but it was fantastic. And I just remember opening my eyes after the activity and saying to Timothy after, holy crap, that was awesome. I was just hallucinating during that entire experience.
Did he get an experience from it too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Somehow he activated the visual cortex. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you that people...
Just goes to show you. That's one of our fun interventions. We'll talk about that in a moment. He says drinking some perfectly ordinary water.
The beauty is... people who will say, oh, I don't believe that I can be hypnotized. I don't believe hypnosis is real. If you can close your eyes and imagine stuff and get an emotional response or get some sort of visualization or get some sort of feeling or something like that happens, gee, do you think that might be hypnosis happening
I think
to you?
it might be an overlap at some point.
So people have a real misconception of what hypnosis is.
And so much misconception. That's why we're here.
Doing it all the time. If you're led through a relaxation experience in a yoga class at the end, that's hypnosis. Anyway, let's keep going.
All right, well, let's go to the second great female presenter there. I went and saw Desiree Eckert, and I sort of communicated with her back and forth and never really had spoken to her before. This young woman is freaking amazing. She's so stylish. She's got green hair, and she was a clothing designer. She made clothing from scratch and designed it for like musicals and stage production. I mean, she got artistic bent, just incredible. And very vivacious, very friendly. And she did an excellent presentation. She spoke on an odd topic for me. But then I've looked and I've seen she has a lot of things she talks about. We'll get to that in a second. She spoke about clothing, and it was really interesting. She gave this whole story of, she brought out like a white lab coat.
Yeah.
And how this changes depending on context. It's an artist's coat. It's a doctor's coat.
A butcher's coat.
All of these things. Yeah. And she was showing how what your clothing is going to affect your hypnosis. And she didn't mean physical clothing necessarily. It was really interesting. What I would like to hear her speak on is she talks on something. I don't know what it is, but I love the title, Microdosing Hypnosis.
Yeah, there's a lot of people starting to do research and talk about this. I don't really know anything about it. So maybe if someone ever wants to be a guest on our podcast, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Desiree is very interesting, and we're going to stay in touch for sure. And I think she was quite glad when I said we're going to be talking about it.
So what did you get out of that talk and little takeaways?
Just another thing of just presentation skills. That's what I'm watching. Because if we're going to bring in any guest speakers, guest trainers, we want to make sure they have the skill sets. I can't handle if people are monotonic or any of these things or don't know the material, but gosh, she knew her material. There was one minor thing that would have made it even better, and it wasn't her fault. She was using a tablet for her notes, and it sort of jammed her on a table up against the wall. So she was stuck in one spot the full time, but she still made it work. I thought, if you let that person loose so she can use the whole area, she would be just amazing. But Desiree, great work. You're fantastic. Which brings me to our next one, Claudia Rickard. Now,
man,
Claudia is phenomenal.
She's hilarious.
She's hilarious. She's a Brit living in the United States. She's beautiful. She's, like I said, funny as hell, but she's really skilled as well.
And
she
compassionate.
taught on this protocol, the bunny talk process. Now, right away, my brain is going, hey, I won't be in this room long.
We did an interview with her separately. It's going to be on. It's going to be on YouTube. May already be on YouTube by the time this podcast goes live, because we did a 10-minute interview, you and her together, talking about this.
Well, this is it. She actually has a book on it, and I highly recommend that you check her out on Amazon. Claudia Rickard, Rickard, like Rickard's red beer.
Yeah, with
Sorry,
that apostrophe.
But she talked this heartfelt thing, and this woman wears her heart on her sleeve. Her emotions are so genuine, and talking about an experience with her own daughter and trauma. And she had permission from her daughter to talk about this, her adult daughter. And she does this thing. She puts her freaking hand like this. It was like a bunny's head. And when her kids were young, her child was young, daughter was young, this was Mommy Bunny.
It was a safety anchor, right?
Anchor, and her daughter was Baby Bunny. So they're dissociating. What does Baby Bunny have to say to Mommy Bunny?
Let's unpack this a little bit.
Let's do that.
Just briefly for those of you who are listening and going, well, what the heck does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
This actually comes from the idea of modalities. And if you have part of modalities are submodalities. Submodalities are the chunks that make up modalities,
the
like
building blocks
visualization, brightness, how close is something in your mind, etc. Well, one of the submodalities is associated in your own body versus dissociated.
Yes.
And emotions are usually lessened when you dissociate. So if somebody is feeling an emotion that they don't want to talk about, and you have them imagine it out here, it's just this bunny puppet.
Yeah.
That's much more comfortable and feels safe.
Well,
and she had created this anchor with her kid back in childhood.
And the Mommy Bunny is non-judgmental, always affirming, always supporting. And her daughter had gone through some stuff and was crying. And she sat on the floor with her, older daughter now. and said, "What do you want to tell Mommy Bunny?" And
Yeah.
that enabled her.
Man, when you just this triggers emotion in me just thinking about it, because I remember.
Really teared up, and I thought, this is very powerful stuff. Anyway, she came up with this, and people said, "Have you written about this protocol? Have you taught it?" No. "Oh, we'll do it then." She went, "Wait a minute, no, this is my protocol. I'll do it." And here's her book. Check it out on Amazon. It's called A Patient's Journey: The Bunny Talk Process. Brilliant for parents. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
Bunny.
Kindergarten teachers, whatever. The Anchor and its associated, safe and comforting for children, non-confrontational. Good on you, Claudia. In fact, no less a personage than Bob Burns himself, creator of the Swan. He thought, I'll watch the video. It's probably going to be crap. Bob's gruff and everything. I could take him though. I love him. But he said, I was actually quite good.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when we filmed that interview between you and her, I set up the camera. I was just sitting on the other side of it, watching and listening. And she started to get quite emotional going through it. And I was thinking, man, I'm going to start crying on the other side of the camera. And I was wondering how you held it together.
Do you know the easiest way to stop your friend crying from something like that, just to help him get control again?
What?
It can actually make it worse, or it can make it better. Just kick him in the pouch. Shut up. Fantastic. A pouch, a baggy carry over your shoulder. Right.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Let's go on to the final one.
Okay.
Finally, the wild woman herself, Melissa Wild. Now, this was another freaking brain-changing experience for me. And this needs to be framed carefully. You know what deja vu is?
Yes.
That sensation that you've experienced something before. And one of the explanations is parallel pathways that are supposed to fire at the same time. One has an infinitesimal lag behind the other because of neurotransmitter problems, whatever. And so you get the same message maybe a millisecond apart. And it feels like it's just happened before. Yeah, it just did. And that's a great theory of it. Well, there's also jamais vu. And jamais vu is when normal everyday things suddenly seem strange and unfamiliar, from the French never seen. But do you know about presque vu?
Like before I've seen it?
No, presque vu is almost.
Oh, almost?
Almost. And I've had, listen to this, man. I'm not dicking around. Seriously.
Nearly.
I was in my car for a meeting with a mutual friend, Ron Berrigan, down at the Winchester Arms before we went to see Larry Nims.
Yes.
That's how long ago it is. On Pharmacy Avenue in the car, presque vu hit for the only time in my life. I was just on the verge of having some amazing understanding of something, and it shifted. And then I was just on the verge.
And you're just like,
and then it shifted to something else. And I kept there's another, this feeling, it's changed. Oh, no, but that, and it went on and on. There was about 8 things in a row. I was just about to have this incredible understanding, and it left this immense Zygarnik loop. That's the problem. Now, here's the thing.
That's funny.
Brookbanks Park. You can Google this, guys. Look in Google Maps. Brookbanks Park and Brookbanks Trail in Toronto. It runs next to Deer Lake Creek, and it's a native protected area. There's a huge native presence there many hundreds of years ago. And that's next to the townhouse, 1227 York Mills, where the Russian tank radio appeared for my dad. So, but that townhouse is blown off now. It's destroyed. It's knocked down. They built a high rise. That's the place where my mom died too, right in that townhouse. So I have a big history there from 1974 to 1977. And lately, I have found myself drawn back to Brookbanks Park, usually on Sunday afternoons, and going on 4 or 5 mile walks through these extensive trails in the woods and the creek. And I'm always just really comforted being there, and I can't figure it out. So I read Melissa Wild's book, and it's called
Wild Intuition. She gave us copies of it.
I'm reading it.
HypnoThoughts Live, and I brought it on the plane too, and I read half of it.
Yeah, what places draw you? What do you hear there? And I'm reading this. It's Brookbanks Park. That draws me all the time. And I started to get the damn presque vu thing.
Yeah.
I thought, there's something to be discovered here. And when I see her, I think she's going to give me the key to figure this out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was a real heavy feeling with me, with the loss of my mom and all this stuff, right? So I meet her at the thing. We're talking, because we'd seen her in Toronto. We're sitting in the pub, and I'm trying to talk to her about this, but it's blasting at the Casbah. So many people, so loud.
Too much music, too many people.
I said, we need to go somewhere quiet and talk. We couldn't find anywhere. I came back, and I said, I need to talk to you about this. She said, it's only Thursday.
Yeah, there's lots of time.
Good point. She turned away, talked to someone else. Well, fair enough. She's right. I went up to my room, and I still had this Zygarnik loop. So I'm going to go to her class. So I went to her class. Again, excellent presenter. Completely
And that was
confident.
the last hour of the conference on Sunday.
Yeah, final hour. I've waited with this feeling of presque vu in various intensities all weekend and beyond that. So she presents, really congruent, great posture, engages people.
And well prepared.
Well prepared. And then she hands out these pictures gets you.
Oh, yeah. Me and Nicholas,
and
we
Nick
were handing
hand
out
these
the
out. You're the
cards.
pool boys.
They were like
Banter boys.
images on
Hand out
cards.
these images. So I get these images. They said, switch with someone. I can't remember mine. It didn't really speak to me. Tony Tomorrow next to me.
Yeah.
Hands me hers. Says, look at that one. It's the hypnotic storm. So the first picture is of a hurricane seen from above. And I went, oh, it is the hypnotic storm. No, it isn't. Click. Instantly, I had the answer. And the Zygarnik loop collapsed. Brookbanks Park draws me in like a vortex. Why? Because of all the happy memories when I was young. And my mom was alive. My dad was alive. It's just to fire those anchors.
So at that time, you hadn't realized it, even though you pre-framed it
Didn't have
here.
a clue. But the card I got from her instantly sorted it out. It's going to sound trite to people, but it was really a much more profound thing than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Great work.
That's really cool. And yeah, she did a fantastic job presenting. And I think we're seeing her
Check
back
out her
in
book, Wild
Toronto for
Intuition.
the Architecture
I
of
hope
Hypnosis
so.
sometime soon.
Now, okay,
we probably need to take
take a special report
commercial break here. So we have for you a special report from Hypno North in Meaford, Ontario, with roving reporter Brado at the dairy farm on his brand new iPhone 6.
Yeah, hurry again. Thanks once again. Well, here we are up in loser land, as hot and humid. You know what? I don't even care. I got a new iPhone 6, and I'm happy as hell about that, even though Siri wasn't available, which Eddard and Duder found hilarious with their Canadian-made knockoff phones that short out and burst into flames about every 10 minutes. So Duder's back from Portugal after an abortive and unsuccessful attempt to locate the actual jellyfish that stung Voralaya last episode. He spent a lot of time trying to find the bastard, ate a ton of pork and clams, the national dish. So anyway, the effort's back now, and him and Eddard are working on their next scheme. Amazingly, I might actually work along with them this time. And best of all, they've included me as one of the backers to help them, and I stand to make an outhouse load of money if it all goes well. So, by now you're probably thinking, yeah, sure, Brado. These are the same dicks you've been slagging for the last couple of years, and now you're going to join forces with them to actually achieve something? But listen, here's what we got in mind. Eddard had this brilliant idea, which is scary, that we should run a hypnosis convention up in Meaford and compete with Scott Sandlin and HypnoThoughts live in Las Vegas. Now, I know it sounds stupid, Matt, but Eddard went out on his ride-em lawnmower, and since he lost his license for good and checked out the Best Western Inn on the bay just southeast of Shallow Lake, it's freaking awesome. And best of all, they won our convention. It's a real nice hotel, and the rooms are clean, which might intimidate Duder, but who gives a bastard? Now, all I have to do as the money man is tell him who to invite and also put down a non-refundable deposit for the event, which is kind of expensive. But I went to the bank and rejigged my mortgage on the dairy farm and that, and I got a solid 10 grand Canadian to secure our spot, which the hotel seemed a little too glad to take. Now, we're going to need some lead time in order to get a good turnout in that and fill that pecker up, so we decided to run it in August in a few weeks before the first of the snow starts. I've invited Colonel Larry and Cheryl Lemon to teach, as well as Carl Smith, although the bastard just laughed hysterically and hung up on my FaceTime call, thinking it was a joke and that. Well, Duder wanted us to get a lot of hypnotic storm riders there and figured that Mike Mandel would be a draw, but he's way too expensive for us, at least in our year one. So anyway, it's taken form, and Duder's handling all the social media and legacy media for this. He's got a plan to get us on CNN to promote it. He figures if we can make it a huge event and invite Reuters and Fox and a bunch of those news sources, we'll each make about $1 million, and I think he might be right. So fingers crossed. This has been your old pal Brado reporting from Hypno North Meaford and saying thanks again and good night.
All right, and we are back. So, all right, let's talk about some resolutions.
Okay,
final continue
thoughts
on
about HypnoThoughts 2024. Rule number 1: always go business class. When it screws, I don't fly anymore. Only to HypnoThoughts and back. I don't fly.
I won't do it because I travel a lot
cheap.
more than you.
I know, but you can do it for HypnoThoughts though.
I figured the value of the business class seat by the hour is it's such an insane price tag.
Do you know what?
But, I know you don't care.
I don't miss it. But the thing is, the final thoughts, excellent conference. I've settled into the Sahara now. I didn't at first. I think the downside is the shape of the place. There's a bunch of people I didn't see. Maybe we just didn't connect, but there's also...
Well, we did a really good thing. Timothy actually set it up. We set that Saturday, 6 p.m.
Oh, buddy, that's great.
We had a packed room in the bar, that whole back area of that cast bar. And we invited all the storm riders to come out. And so many people came out. and people who weren't necessarily part of our community, because we don't care. It's a HypnoThoughts event, and we had such a good time just talking with people and hanging
That's
out.
going to be the rule.
Yeah.
We'll do that at 6 p.m. and people have to show up in their Storm Rider gear to get in. That's your admission. And the first 10 drinks are on Chris. Now, I was really glad to see Jennifer Johnston there, and she had an absolute blast. Jennifer, I worked with her a couple of years back, and she was going through some stresses, and she came over to our house. She's a family friend, and I just talked to her conversationally, and I put input and a fascination in hypnosis, and it is bearing fruit now.
Yeah, she's been the
taking her
class,
course. She's a
coming to the
master
conference.
hypnotist.
She's awesome.
She had a blast. Love Jennifer.
Yeah.
Now, we missed Larry and Cheryl Ellman. We missed David Snyder. And our thoughts and prayers are with Roy Hunter, who had a stroke and he could not attend. And Roy's just a lovely person, and we wish him well and speedy recovery. And listen, guys, come to HypnoThoughts Live next year. It's going to be an absolute blast. We promise you're going to love it.
All right. So with that said, I think we gave quite a good bit of value here. So let's do the empowering question, and then you'll do the Metafive, which is one better than a Metaphor, and then we'll say goodnight.
So let's get to our empowering question, and then I'll do the Metafive, which is one better than a Metaphor. Chris, give us the empowering question.
All right, here you go. Ask yourself, if you were forced to live on a dairy farm in Meaford, next door to Eddard and Dudard, would you move away to Owen Sound, or would you simply fall into the local pattern and make them the center of your life? And how can you be sure you're not doing that already?
Profound. Here's the Metafive. It comes from this morning. So I'm driving from our cabin up in the Great White North to Port Perry here. It took almost 2 hours because with the new Subaru, I'm not supposed to gun it yet or use a lot of the wonderful features until it's broken in properly. But I'm coming through Minden. And Minden, the speed is 40 kilometers an hour, which is only 24 miles an hour. So I'm going over the Gull River Bridge. And there's a guy standing there, just about to look over the water. I'm slowing down for the intersection. This guy's about my age, Chris, early 70s. But I was appalled by what I saw. He was wearing brown sandals with nearly knee-high nylon black dress socks and a golf shirt stuffed into a pair of shorts up to about here with a thin belt, the thing I hate. He had a Tilly hat on, which is just resignation. It's, oh, I'm old and I want to wear this, and put pins in it everywhere, golf courses I've been to. And he's standing there and I'm thinking, I'm never going to become that. I'm never going to become that. And then he made it worse. He leaned on the rail, looked out over the Gull River, let his jaw drop, and just stood there, gaping in the gapery.
I thought you were going to say gaping in the gapery.
He was gaping in the gapery. I'm thinking, what has happened to this man?
There you go.
My wife said it's because he doesn't have a wife to nag him enough.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This has been episode 261 of the Brain Software Podcast. And want to just make sure we recap that you need to join our Brain Software community. Go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/free group. All one word, free group. And join us in the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Brain Software group. It'll be awesome. We'd love to have you there. Our Architecture of Hypnosis is coming up in November. I think it's the 11th through the 15th, if I remember correctly. It's way more than halfway sold out.
Come to Toronto.
It's filling up way faster than normal. So if that doesn't work for you, we've already opened the registration for May 2025. Woo. So that's open for business. You can sign up for that one. It's the end of May. And other than that, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks once again. And good night. And Lucci.